The Cursed Well. Chapter 1. The Struggles of Burju's Family. In the remote village of Budlapur, Shanti lived with her husband, Burju, and their 2 young children. Life had been hard for them ever since Burju lost his job. Days turned into weeks, and their savings had run dry. There was no food left in the house, and the only source of water, the village well, was controlled by the cruel village head, Sarpanch. One evening, Shanti overheard a neighbor, Bijli, whispering, "Sarpanch is asking why Burju hasn't paid for the well water for the past 2 months. If he doesn't pay soon, they might ban him from using it altogether." Shanti's heart sank. She knew they had no money to spare, but water was essential for survival. Gathering her courage, she decided to go to the well and request just a single bucket of water for her family. As she reached the well, she saw 2 of Sarpanch's men, Changu and Mangu, standing guard. Nervously, she approached them. "Please, I need just 1 bucket of water. My children are thirsty, and we have nothing left at home," she pleaded. Changu sneered. "No money, no water. Sarpanch's orders. But we're desperate. Just a little." Mangu interrupted, his voice cold. "Rules are rules. Now leave." Shanti, defeated, turned away. But as she walked back, Bijli secretly handed her a small pot of water. "Take this, but don't tell anyone. If Sarpanch's men find out, I'll be in trouble." Tears welled in Shanti's eyes. "Thank you, Bijli. I'll never forget this kindness." Chapter 2. Whispers of Rebellion. The next day, Shanti visited an elderly woman, Fulwa, who had also suffered at the hands of Sarpanch's men. "They denied me water too," Fulwa said bitterly. "Yesterday, when I tried to fill my pot, those 2 scoundrels pushed me aside and threatened me." "This is injustice," Shanti said, anger rising in her voice. "My husband lost his job, and we barely have enough to eat. They control water like it's gold." As they spoke, Changu and Mangu passed by, their eyes narrowing as they overheard them. "That woman is bad-mouthing us," Changu muttered. "And that old lady too. They're turning the village against us." "We need to tell Sarpanch before things get worse," Mangu agreed. That evening, Changu and Mangu reported everything to Sarpanch. "She's spreading rumors, Sarpanch Ji," Changu said. "She tells everyone you have no mercy. If she continues, the villagers might revolt and elect a new leader." Sarpanch's face darkened. "This must be dealt with. Tonight we end this." Chapter 3. A Sinister Night. That night, under the cover of darkness, Sarpanch sent his men. Before dawn, Burju and his entire family were brutally murdered. The village woke to shocking news. Burju, Shanti, and their children were found dead in their small hut. Some villagers whispered in sorrow, "They died of hunger and thirst." Others grieved, "Last night, Shanti told me they were denied water again. May their souls rest in peace." But unknown to them, their deaths were no accident, and those responsible believed they had gotten away with it. Chapter 4. The Haunted Well. Months passed, and the village moved on, but something strange began to happen. One night, Changu and Mangu were closing the well after use. "Let's go. It's late," Mangu said. Just as they turned to leave, the well creaked and started running on its own. "What the?" Changu stepped closer. Suddenly, a cold hand shot out from the darkness, grabbing his leg. "Ah!" Changu screamed as he fell into the muddy ground. Mangu rushed to help but burst into laughter instead. "You fool! You tripped in the mud," he teased. Changu scowled and got up, but before he could reply, laughter echoed around them. Deep, eerie laughter. Mangu's smile faded. "Wait! That wasn't you?" They turned and saw 2 small children, a ghostly woman, and a terrifying, shadowy figure standing near the well. Shanti's family. They were laughing. Changu and Mangu froze in horror. Then, as if jolted by lightning, they ran straight to Sarpanch's house, gasping for breath. "Sarpanch Ji. They're back," Mangu stammered. "Who's back?" Sarpanch asked, annoyed. "Burju's family. They were at the well." "Ghosts? We saw them. Sarpanch burst into laughter. Idiots! You're scared of shadows? You must have imagined it. But deep inside, a seed of fear had been planted. Chapter 5, Justice from Beyond. The next night, Changu and Mangu were assigned to guard the well again. Midnight came, and with it the sound of children giggling. Fear gripped them as they turned and saw the spirits again. This time, Shanti and Burju reached out, grabbing them. Before they could scream, the ghosts dragged them into the well. Their bodies were found floating the next morning. Panic spread through the village. Sarpanch, now terrified, ran to a tantric priest. They are haunting us. Save me, he begged. The priest listened and then warned. You have committed a great sin. The dead do not rest until justice is served. Realizing his fate was sealed, Sarpanch gathered the villagers and confessed everything. I had them killed, he admitted. I was afraid they would ruin my reputation. But now, they have returned for revenge. The villagers were horrified. You took innocent lives for your pride? You are worse than a monster. That night, as Sarpanch sat in his courtyard, deep in regret, a chilling wind blew. He looked up and saw them, Burju, Shanti, and their children, staring at him. Remember us, Sarpanch? Shanti's voice echoed. Sarpanch tried to speak, but before he could utter a word, darkness swallowed him whole. By dawn, his lifeless body was found at the well, his face frozen in terror. From that day on, no one dared to abuse power in Badlapur. And at the village well, some say, on quiet nights, the laughter of children can still be heard. The Lost Treasure of Everwood. Chapter 1, The Forgotten Map. In the heart of Everwood, a dense and ancient forest, there lived a curious and adventurous boy named Leo. Ever since he was little, he had been fascinated by the stories his grandfather told him. Stories of a lost treasure hidden deep within the woods. Legends said that it was left behind by an ancient civilization, guarded by the spirits of the forest. Though many had tried, no one had ever found it. One rainy afternoon, as Leo was cleaning his grandfather's attic, he stumbled upon an old wooden chest covered in dust. Curious, he opened it and found a worn-out map inside. The ink had faded, but he could still make out a faint trail leading to a marked location deep inside Everwood. His heart pounded with excitement. He ran to his best friend, Emma, who was always the voice of reason in their adventures. Emma, look at this, Leo said, shoving the map in front of her. It's real. The treasure actually exists. Emma examined the map closely. Leo, this map looks ancient. How do we know it's not just a legend? Leo grinned. There's only one way to find out. After some hesitation, Emma sighed and nodded. All right, but we need a plan. The forest is dangerous. Chapter 2, Into the Unknown. The next morning, they packed their bags with food, water, a flashlight, and a small knife for safety. With the map in hand, they entered the depths of Everwood. The tall trees stretched towards the sky, their thick canopies blocking out most of the sunlight. The deeper they went, the quieter it became, as if the forest itself was watching them. Hours passed as they followed the markings on the map. They crossed a shallow river, climbed over fallen logs, and pushed through thick bushes. Suddenly, they heard a rustling sound behind them. Leo froze. Did you hear that? Emma nodded, gripping his arm. We're not alone. A low growl echoed through the trees. From the shadows, a black panther emerged, its golden eyes locked onto them. Don't move, Emma whispered. The panther took a step closer, sniffed the air, and then, to their surprise, turned and disappeared into the forest. That was close, Leo exhaled. Let's keep moving. Chapter 3, The Stone Gate. After what felt like hours, they arrived at a clearing. In the center stood an ancient stone gate covered in vines and strange carvings. The map indicated that the treasure lay beyond this gate, but there was no visible way to open it. Leo brushed away the vines, revealing a series of strange symbols. He ran his fingers over them, trying to understand their meaning. Then, he remembered something his grandfather once told him. The past holds the key to the future. Leo pulled out his grandfather's old compass, a family heirloom, and placed it against the carvings. The ground trembled. The symbols began to glow, and slowly, the stone gate creaked open, revealing a dark tunnel leading underground. Emma gulped. Are we really doing this? Leo grinned. We've come this far. Let's find out what's inside. Chapter 4. The Hidden Chamber. The tunnel led them into a vast underground chamber, illuminated by faint beams of light seeping through cracks in the ceiling. Before them lay a treasure unlike anything they had ever seen. Golden artifacts, sparkling jewels, ancient scrolls, and intricately designed statues. Emma gasped. It's real. The treasure of Everwood is real. Leo picked up an old, dusty book with strange symbols. This must be the history of the civilization that built this place. As they explored, Emma noticed something strange. A golden pedestal stood in the center of the room, holding a small locket. Unlike the other treasures, this one seemed untouched by time. Leo reached for it, but as soon as he picked it up, the ground beneath them rumbled. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the walls began to crack. The cave is collapsing, Emma screamed. Grabbing the locket, they sprinted toward the tunnel. Rocks fell around them, blocking the exit. Just as they thought they were trapped, Leo spotted a narrow opening near the top. Climb! He shouted. Using whatever strength they had left, they scrambled up the crumbling walls and squeezed through the gap just as the chamber caved in, burying the treasure forever. Chapter 5. The True Treasure. Panting and covered in dust, they lay on the forest floor, staring up at the sky. We found it, Leo whispered, holding up the golden locket. Emma nodded, smiling. And we almost got buried with it. Back home, Leo carefully opened the locket. Inside was a small note written in an ancient language. They took it to his grandfather, who had spent years studying the history of Everwood. His eyes widened as he translated the note. The true treasure is not gold or jewels, but the stories we pass on and the adventures that make them real. Leo and Emma smiled at each other. The treasure was gone, but their story would live on forever. And sometimes that was more valuable than gold.